Hi, it's Sam Spears here from Whitburn in Central Belt of Scotland. Thanks for having a look at this video. What I want to say today is how I've come to an understanding of how the music business is today. And one of the wonderful things that is now available to musicians and artists and songwriters that back in the day wasn't. Um, Let me tell you a wee story about Whitburn. Whitburn started as a row of cottages occupied by weavers. They were artisans. They had a loom in their home and they made their own cloth and material and sold it. And that's how things worked. And then along came the Industrial Revolution, and that put paid to the weavers. Suddenly you had weaving mills, automated machinery, and the weavers were out of business. Okay, now back to my understanding of the music business. When I started out in the music business, you did an apprenticeship almost. You learned an instrument, you played local bars or any venue that you could to learn your trade, and you wrote. And when you wrote, the next logical step was to get a recording of that music. Because at that time, music was already an industry. Certainly the recording side of music was already an industry. So you would book a studio, quite expensive because studios were filled with very expensive equipment. You recorded on tape, 2-inch tape. It was mixed down and then mastered onto a 1/4-inch tape. And you ended up with a demo that you could tout to publishers or record companies, and hopefully some artist and repertoire A&R person would like what they heard, would maybe come and see you play and hopefully give you a recording contract. Now, in those days the industry was flush. Vinyl sales were an expensive product. They had high margin on each sale. So the record companies had money, which meant that they were prepared to take risks on artists that were doing something different, something new, something innovative. They didn't just try and sign everything that sounded the same and take the low risk approach. Then along came the digital age and Napster and file sharing and the notion among the general public and the music consuming public that somehow music was free, which meant that a whole load of money that used to be spent on music, and it's still in the music business, but it doesn't get spent on recordings or the purchase of recorded music so much now, which meant that record companies were less likely to take a chance. And along came iTunes, of course, and Spotify, Amazon, you name it. So the record companies found it difficult. And in the old days, you could have one successful act, and that would pay for 10 acts that you'd signed that didn't break through. But you could still sign those 10 and take the chance and find in the next one. Nowadays, it's not like that. And nowadays, it's a risky business making a commitment as a record company. So you have to be sure. The downside of that is a lot of stuff sounds very similar. If there's a sound that's successful in the charts at the moment, then it's a safer bet to sign something that sounds like that again. However, another wonderful development of the digital age is that you and I can be our own recording studio. You see over here a tune that I'm working on at the moment on my Mac, and it's Pro Tools. I can now do my own thing without the huge expense of capital that a record company had to put into a recording studio. I don't have to do any of that now. Relatively cheaply, you can make a fairly good recording and you can do whatever you want. Now let me spin that back to the Whitburn Weavers analogy. I like to think of it as Loom, Loom, and that is local, organic, original music. Because we can take the risk, we can be original, we can put stuff out that comes from a collection of influences and the core of our being, and we can put out stuff that I call music, and hopefully you do too. My story is that I was out of the business for about 30 years, and when I came back it was a completely different world. But I got to learn this digital technology, and I was writing material, and I announced, strangely enough, on Facebook that I was going to write an album in the vernacular, in Scots and English, about my life in Whitburn. Now, people from Whitburn are called Downdies. This was one of the design documents for the album cover. And I wanted to put this out digitally, and you can do that fairly cheaply. CD Baby, DistroKid, there are a number of people who can do that distribution piece for you once you've done your recording, which again, as I say, you can do yourself these days. But I found that my market, my particular market, fell into the category of collectors. So there were these people who discover this local organic music, and they don't just want to stream it. Many people do, but not all of them. There are a bunch of people who wanted to own something. They collect things. So I produced some CDs as well. And again, you can distribute those through Bandcamp, for example. So we can be the most indie company by doing this stuff for ourselves. And I call it Loom. Local, organic, original music. And that's what I've been doing. I followed that up with another passion of mine, is the work of Robert Burns. I did an album called Whitburns. Did you see what I did there? But the arrangements are all my arrangements, and are influenced by that organic piece, which is my background, is a wee bit of traditional music and a lot of classical music and a lot of rock music. So all of that kind of melds together. Now, a record company would never dream of putting something like that out, but I can put that out. And it's brilliant. It's just brilliant, the access that you now have to a market. So, Loom, and I'm sure that there are many Loomers out there. This is not genre specific or anything like that. It's about the ability to do your own thing by yourself or with your friends and get it out there. And you will find a market. There are people in the world who are looking for something different, who are looking to hear those original voices. And hopefully they'll stream your tunes, they'll buy your tunes, ideally buy your tunes. And we can continue to finance this whole development of local, organic, original music. So Loom on. If you want to hear more of my stuff, you'll find my Facebook page is Sam Spears Music. You've got this YouTube channel. Please subscribe, and please share. And let me know if you like what I'm saying. If you do, I'll go into a bit more detail on the component parts of what I think Loom is. But we are the new weavers, we're the artisans, and the world loves an artisan. So write on, play on, and get the stuff out there. Every blessing. Till next time. Cheers.